You know, as we're seeing, there's lots of different types of numbers. We've already seen whole numbers. Those are the numbers that we count with, including 0. We've seen integers, which are the whole numbers along with their opposites, the numbers with the negatives in them. And then we're now thinking about rational numbers, which are the numbers that can be written as a over b, where a and b are integers, and b is never 0. So let's actually see how we can look at all these numbers together. They kind of fit together nicely, and we can use what's called in mathematics a Venn diagram to actually see that visually. So a Venn diagram is just a really cool way. Here, I'll put one kind of there. It's just big old blobs, and then you can put blobs inside of blobs to show that the stuff inside the little blob is also something that's part of the big blob. So you can have things kind of more refined. So for example, with the numbers that we've been thinking about recently, the biggest blob we can think of right now are rational numbers. They're kind of all-encompassing, big blob. And then there's an inside, more refined version of rational numbers, which we actually saw together, which are actually called the integers. The integers, remember, are special cases of the rationals, because the integers, after all, can be written as that integer over 1. And then inside the integers, we have the whole numbers. The numbers that aren't the negative ones, just the positive and 0 ones. So we could put another little blob inside to actually indicate the whole numbers. So let's just have some fun by looking at certain numbers and seeing exactly where they fit in this Venn diagram, kind of which little blob do they go in. So let's start off with the number -12. All right, is -12 a rational number? Can I write it as a over b, where a and b are integers? Well, of course, -12 is an integer, so I can write it as -12 over 1. So therefore, we see that it's a rational number. Awesome. Now, is it an integer? Well, absolutely, because it's the negative, it's the opposite of 12, and 12 is just a regular old-fashioned whole number. So in fact, we see that this is an integer. So we can push -12, watch it, I'm going to push it down even deeper into the Venn diagram to the integers blob. Can we push it all the way down to the whole numbers blob? Well, check it out. -12 is actually the opposite of 12. It's a negative number, and whole numbers are not negative. So in fact, we can't push it into that elite club. That club is too elite. This -12 just makes it to the integers. Isn't that fun? Okay, let's try another one. How about 0.4? Or the way we'd read that is 4/10. Well, just by saying 4/10, it actually gives us a clue that we can write it as 4 over 10. So we can convert that decimal expansion of the number actually to a number that is now easy to see to be rational, namely 4 over 10. Now, 4 over 10 is an example of a rational number, so it definitely makes it into the first club. Can it go deeper? Well, is it an example of an integer? Well, sadly, no. It's not an integer. Do you see why? Because it's not one of the numbers that we would see as a whole number or the opposite of a whole number. It's actually between two whole numbers. It itself is not a whole number, so it can't even make it down into the integer category. It's stuck at that top category of rational numbers. It can't go any deeper. How about the number 11? Well, 11 is certainly a rational number because I can write it as 11 over 1. So that's easy because 11 itself is an integer. So it's definitely a rational number, so we're in the game. Can we go deeper? It's like, how low can we go? It's almost like limbo. Well, 11 over 1 is a rational. 11 itself, of course, is an example of an integer. So it actually makes it into the integer category, and in fact, it's a positive integer, so it makes it all the way down into the whole number category. It made it to the absolute most elite part of our Venn diagram. It's an example of a whole number, so I'm going to put it right there. And finally, let's take a look at -2/3 together. Well, -2/3, we can see immediately that it is a rational number because I have it as -2 over 3, and those are both integers where the 3 is not 0. So we definitely make it into the first category, into the rational blob. But can I go any deeper? Sadly, no. It's not an integer. For it to be an integer, we have to be able to write it as that over 1, an integer over 1, and negative 2/3 is not an integer. So it can't even go into the integer category. There's no need to even think about the whole number category because we know the game's over. It's stuck in the rational category and can't go any lower, any more refined. Anyway, you can see how we can classify different types of numbers. The beauty of looking at numbers and seeing their structure is to see the different types of numbers that are around us, and the Venn diagram is a powerful way to actually visualize where we are in our world of number. Have fun thinking about numbers on your own, and we'll see you soon.